Good evening. A new ULTRAKILL update came out very recently, which added a new level, new weapons, and many more new goodies to the game. In this video, we'll go over them in a timely fashion because your time is valuable and I get that. So let's begin. The flagman, or should I say flagmen of this update, are the Sawed-On, the Firestarter, and the Jumpstart, which are the new red variants of the shotgun, rocket launcher, and nail gun respectively. Let's start with the shotgun. The primary fire is mostly identical to the other variants. You can still pierce weaker enemies and the pellets can be projectile boosted. The change lies in the miniature chainsaw that is attached to the underbarrel of the gun, which will enter a charging state when the Alt fire button is pressed down. It can be used as a sort of bayonet since it damages enemies up close. Releasing the Alt fire button will launch the chainsaw forward but leave it tethered to the gun, from where it can be parried and launched forward again. After a very short cooldown, another chainsaw can be launched again, even if another one is still tethered. This chainsaw also remains tethered while switching weapons, but does get destroyed if you don't parry it in time. Punching it with a knuckle blaster will rip the tether and send the chainsaw flying and bouncing off walls, behaving similarly to an overheated saw blade of the green saw blade launcher variant. This unchained saw can also be attracted to magnets from the attractive variant of the nail gun. Moving on, the Firestarter is the new variant of the rocket launcher that can douse enemies and surfaces in oil, which can be used to ignite enemies and floors covered in it by simply shooting it with a rocket. These flames make enemies take more damage as well as a bit of afterburn while they're on fire. Other than that, the Firestarter's primary fire is identical to the other rocket launchers. Next up is the Jumpstart nail gun. While the primary fire stays largely unchanged, the Alt fire shoots out a cable that can be attached to enemies. Starting a charge also greatly increases the firing speed of the Jumpstart. Once the charge level reaches maximum after around 5 seconds or so, or the attached enemy dies, a chain lightning delivers a shock to nearby enemies, dealing quite high damage, and sending the cable back on a short cooldown. If the targeted enemy is also small enough, it also launches it in the air before the shock. You do have to stay pretty close to the target while the shock is charging though, since wandering even a tad too far away will disconnect it and undo your progress. Switching weapons while the cable is connected will not sever it, and the shock will charge as normal, given that you're close enough. Now for the Jackhammer. It is the new alternate version of the shotgun that can be unlocked similarly to the slab revolver by pressing 3 buttons hidden in 7-2 and retrieving it from what looks like a South African made Gauda tank variant in a secret room in the level. Function wise, it sacrifices the pellet spread primary fire of the stock shotgun with a chargeable piston that deals damage up close. It can be armed by holding down the primary fire button and fired by releasing it. If an attack hits an enemy or a surface, V1 will be pushed back with the force being proportional to the player's speed during the attack. More about this mechanic in a second. The gauge on the left hand side of the weapon indicates the velocity of the player, as the Jackhammer will deal more damage the faster V1 is traveling. About half a Maurice while sliding or walking, 2/3 while slide jumping, and insta-killing it while moving at around ground slam speed, or for example during a slam storage slide. However, the more high velocity attacks will send the piston on a short cooldown. The Jackhammer also inherits the alt fire modes of the other shotgun variants and can turn projectiles like cores and rockets into hit scan attacks. This means that alt firing a core and then using the Jackhammer on it immediately after turns it into kind of a mini malicious rail cannon. And since the attacks are hit scan, they can also be bounced off coins and into enemies. This core thump, as I like to call it, does the exact same damage as a core snipe. The overpump attack works largely the same as on the stock shotgun, but either the self-damage and overpump explosions was nerfed, or the Jackhammer's overpump variant does 35 damage instead of the stock's 50. The Sawed-On variant works virtually the same as on the default, but can now be propelled again while it's tethered with the Jackhammer's primary fire, much like with a parry. That's about it for the weapons, but certainly not it for the update. A new secret level has been added in the Violence Layer, which is admittedly a bit of a pain in the ass to get to, so I'd recommend watching a separate video on how to access it. In quintessence though, you have to lure a street cleaner from the other side of the level to open up a sealed gate, or rather burn through it. It then leads to the entrance of the secret level. The first half of 7-S takes place in a huge library in the style of Violence, where you go from room to room clearing enemies which aren't too difficult on their own, but trying to end the level as usual greets us with a pressure washer and vacuum cleaner, urging us to clean up the mess we've made. Honestly, I've kind of expected something like this, since painting the rooms red has been kind of jarring ever since I played Violence for the first time. A pressure washing simulator gimmick really fits the style of ULTRAKILL in this layer, cleaning off the bloodstained walls, floors, and decor in every room you fought in skin and putting the giblets of your dead enemies into a trash can or dumping them into the abyss. While a calm soundtrack plays in the background, it's kind of sad and funny at the same time, letting you reflect on the consequences of these showdowns you have in the game, almost in silence. Admittedly, I didn't even manage to finish the level, since you have to 100% clean the rooms before you can exit the level. My stupid ass used the Firestarter in one of the rooms, which made giblets almost impossible to reach without taking damage, and they respawn every time you die. Long story short, I gave up after like half an hour. Another addition I'd like to briefly go over is the addition of the new brutal game difficulty, where enemies get some new moves and abilities as well as increasing their movement speed. Some examples of this include the Gutterman getting enraged when his shield is broken, after which his punches can no longer be parried, the soldiers getting a Dark Souls roll before firing their shot, the malicious face now firing a barrage of projectiles in a slide spray, the filth now leaping at you when you're airborne, the sentries getting a shorter lock-on time as well as firing twice now, and the schisms being much more accurate. These are only some of the changes I've noticed while testing the new difficulty. Is there anything I've missed or want me to talk more about? Please let me know down in the comments below. And as always, this was Cold Brew, thanks for watching, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I'll see you guys around. Cheers!